Welcome to the Gorilla 5 video series. In this lesson, part 1, breakdown sheets, we're going to learn the basics about breakdown sheets. Some of the things we're going to learn are what exactly is an element, how to add and remove an element from a scene, and how to create a new breakdown sheet. Now, if you'll remember, in our last lesson, we learned how to properly import a screenplay into Gorilla. So let's go ahead and select that schedule. And from the Gorilla toolbar, we're going to select the Breakdown button, which is going to take us directly to our Breakdown Sheets module. Now, on the right-hand side of the screen, you're going to notice our Scene Navigator. And this is how you navigate to different scenes within Gorilla. We happen to be in Scene 1 right now, so we're going to go ahead and add some elements to this particular scene. Now, before I begin, notice here on the right-hand side where it says Scheduled Elements for Scene, this is displaying the elements that are attached to Scene 1. Now, if you remember, let's go ahead and launch Final Draft Tagger real quick. And let's do a quick comparison. Remember that when we were in Tagger in Scene 1, we had all elements in the current scene shown here on the right-hand side of the screen. Notice the same elements are displayed here in Gorilla. So we can see how when we imported our tagged screenplay, that our elements came in directly from the .scx file. All right, so let's go ahead and add another element to the scene. Even though we tagged our screenplay, it's very possible, if not mostly probable, that we're going to want to add more props and costumes and things of that nature to our scenes after we import our screenplay. So let's go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select on the left-hand side of the screen one of the categories. I'm going to select, for example, props. And notice, of course, this is showing us all the props that were imported from our screenplay. Let's go ahead and add a prop to this particular scene. In order to do that, you go ahead and select the prop and select the little arrow here that you see with the little blue arrow with the trailing blue dot. So I'm going to select the spoon element. And notice when I do that, that spoon is now added to the right-hand side of the screen where it says Scheduled Elements for Scene. Let's go ahead and do that again. Let's go ahead and select a different category. I'm going to select Costumes. I'm going to select White Sandals and select the blue arrow. And notice that White Sandals now appears on the right-hand side of the screen. I've now scheduled 2 elements for Scene 1. Now, notice one thing. If I were to select White Sandals again, notice that it doesn't necessarily add the White Sandals element to the scene, but what it does is it ups the quantity from 1 to 2. And I'm going to do that again. Notice that it says 2 here for quantity. I'm going to click on that arrow again, and notice that now the quantity for White Sandals is 3. Now, if I wanted to remove an element from a scene, I would select the red X button here, and notice the tooltip. It says remove this element from this breakdown sheet. Now, if I have more than one quantity, it downs the quantity 1. I'm going to do that again, and one more time, and the last time it will remove that particular element from the scene. Now, notice that it removes the element from the scene, but it does not remove the element from our list of available costumes, and that's a very important thing to note. Now, let's say, for example, we wanted to add an element to this scene that we don't have in our list. So let's say we wanted to add a hat, for example. What would we do at this point is select over here this green Add button where it says Add Element. I'm going to go ahead and type the word hat, and I'm going to click OK. And notice what happens. 2 things. It adds hat to the list of available costumes, and it adds it to the right-hand side where it says Scheduled Elements for Scene 1. Now I'm going to do that again, and I'm going to show you the different options that you have here. I'm going to type in red hat to make it a little bit different, and notice at the very bottom here, this checkbox will be checked by default, and it says add this element to the current breakdown sheet, which means if I click OK, it's going to close this window, and it's going to add the element, of course, to our list of costumes, and it's going to add it to our scheduled elements for the scene, the current scene that we are in. If I were to select this button here, notice it unchecks automatically the checkbox below it. It says when you click OK, add another element. This will allow you to create that element, but it doesn't close the window. It allows you to add another element and another. And of course, you could do this endlessly until you hit cancel or another check or check the other checkbox. And notice it adds those elements to the list of costumes, red hat, green hat, but it does not, I hit cancel on the last one, but notice it does not add it to the scheduled elements window here. I would have to do that manually. And that's just one way that you can rapid fire create a whole bunch of elements right on the fly instead of just adding one at a time. That's up to you how you want to do that. Now let's show another thing here, and that is the sorting. Notice that on the right-hand side of the screen here, it says Sort Elements. If I were to click this button here, I'll move that out of the way just a little bit, notice that you can change the sort order of this particular window. So if I wanted to sort my elements by element name, for example, I can do that. Or if I wanted to sort them by category board ID, and I'll explain board ID actually in another lesson, I can do that also. Now, the next thing I want to show you is how to add a new breakdown sheet. Now, this is important because a lot of times you'll import your screenplay, and after you've imported it and after you've tagged all your elements, the writer or the producer says we're going to add another scene, and 1 or 2 or 3 scenes are added or slightly modified. If you were to delete your schedule and re-import your screenplay again, you'd have to redo all the work that you've done. But Gorilla allows you to create a new breakdown sheet, basically mimicking a new scene if it was created in the screenplay. In order to do that, you go up to the File pull-down menu and select the New Breakdown Sheet option. And notice what it does. It creates a blank breakdown sheet. And what you can do is fill out the information just as if you were writing a screenplay. So interior, exterior, you can select which one you want to do here. In the Set field, notice it brings up a list of all sets that have already been imported into Gorilla that you already have. I'm going to select Kitchen here. And in the DN field, you can select the day-night field. I'm going to select morning just so that we'll have a color that will stand out so you could see that. And another thing you will have to do if you create a new breakdown sheet is manually enter the page count. So for example, let's say the scene in the screenplay is a half a page. You'll have to put in 4/8 of a page. And basically we're creating a new scene. At this point, you can now enter all your scheduled elements just as if you were to do that on any particular scene in your entire scene navigator. And the last thing you want to do, notice up here, is you want to put in a scene number. So let's say this particular scene is supposed to take place between scene 11 and 12, and in the screenplay it's tagged as 11A. You can go ahead and type in 11A over here, and notice that the scene is created here with 11A. Now you might want to sort this in a different way to make this sorted in scene order. So similarly to the sort button that you have down here for scheduled elements, you can also sort up here your scene navigator. I'm going to go ahead and click that button, and we have some options here. For example, let's say we want to sort it by set. It will sort the scene navigator by set. If we want to bring it back to scene number, which is the screenplay order, we can go ahead and click OK there. And notice that scene 11A is now sandwiched between scene 11 and 12. And you can create as many breakdown sheets as you want. Similarly, if you want to go to a particular scene, let me go to one with a whole bunch of elements here that has been modified. Let's say this scene was modified in the screenplay ever so slightly. Let's say that, for example, the page count has been changed. You can change the page count right here, or an element has been added or removed, or even the day-night field has been changed. Instead of day, we're now going to shoot this at dusk, and you can see, of course, the color has changed to reflect that. So you can modify your breakdown sheets in Gorilla to mimic the screenplay after the screenplay has been modified. That's a wrap. Have a great shoot.